My father forced me to attend my perfect sister's wedding, threatening to cut off my tuition. He didn't know I'd already graduated top of my class and landed a six-figure job. Moments before the ceremony, I silently gave him an envelope. When he read it, "You're going to that wedding whether you like it or not, Laura. Miss it, and I'm done paying for your education. You hear me?" My father's voice cracked through the phone, sharp and final. He thought he had leverage. He was dead wrong, and the truth was about to hit him harder than he could ever imagine. I was sitting in my tiny Portland apartment, staring at an acceptance letter nobody in my family knew existed. It was for a graduate program in environmental engineering, something I'd earned entirely on my own merit. My name is Laura, and for most of my 22 years, I'd been the invisible daughter. My younger sister, Jessica, was the golden child, the one whose every achievement was celebrated like a national holiday. Me? I was just the backup plan, the disappointment, the one who existed to make Jessica look better. The wedding my father was threatening me about was Jessica's big day. She was marrying Trevor, some guy from a wealthy family who worked in commercial real estate. I'd met him exactly twice, and both times he'd looked right through me. They were perfect for each other, really, both so self-absorbed. "Dad, I have exams that week," I said, even though it was a lie. I'd actually graduated 3 weeks earlier, summa cum laude, valedictorian of my class, with a job offer starting at $110,000 a year. None of them knew. I'd stopped sharing my accomplishments years ago when I realized they didn't care. "Exams can wait," he snapped. "Your sister's wedding happens once. You think your mother and I struggled to put you through school so you could skip family obligations?" That line made me laugh, though silently. Struggled? They'd paid for my first semester 4 years ago and had held it over my head ever since. After that, I'd taken out loans, worked 3 part-time jobs, and applied for every scholarship. I'd paid my own way through college while they showered Jessica with money for sorority fees, spring break trips, and a designer wardrobe. "I'll think about it," I said. "You'll do more than think about it. You'll be there in a dress with a smile on your face, or you can forget about me writing another tuition check. Your choice." He hung up before I could respond. I looked around my small studio apartment. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Every piece of furniture, every dish, every book, all paid for with my own money. My family had no idea I'd been financially independent for years. The threat about tuition was laughable. There was no tuition left to pay. I'd finished my degree, graduated at the top of my class, and landed a position at Thornberry Systems, a top environmental engineering firm. I was set to start in 2 weeks, right after Jessica's wedding, which I had zero intention of attending. But my father didn't know that. Neither did my mother. And Jessica? She probably didn't even know I existed. I scrolled through the family group chat. It was overflowing with wedding messages. My mother had sent hundreds of photos of Jessica in various white gowns, each accompanied by gushing commentary. Not once had anyone asked how I was doing. When I'd mentioned my graduation date a month ago, my mother had said, "That's nice, honey," and immediately changed the subject to Jessica's bachelorette party. I'd stopped expecting anything different. Jessica was the star, and I was the stagehand. But what they didn't know, what they'd never bothered to find out, was that I'd outgrown needing their approval. I'd built a life they knew nothing about, achieved things they'd never celebrated, and created a future that had nothing to do with them. On my desk sat a thick envelope. Inside was a cashier's check for the exact amount my parents had paid toward my first semester of college, $12,350. It had taken me months to save, living on ramen and discounted groceries, but I'd done it. I wasn't giving it to them out of obligation. I was giving it to them to cut the last thread of their control. Once they had this money back, they'd have no leverage. No threats, no guilt trips, nothing. The wedding was in 2 days. I'd decided not to go, but I hadn't told them yet. I wanted to see the look on my father's face when I handed him that envelope. I wanted him to realize his threats meant nothing, that I didn't need him or his money, and that I'd succeeded in spite of them, not because of them. Maybe it was petty. But after years of being treated like I didn't matter, I wanted them to know exactly what they'd lost. Growing up felt like living in a spotlight always pointed at someone else. Jessica was 3 years younger, and from the moment she was born, everything revolved around her. She was the pretty, charming one who could wrap my parents around her finger. I was practical, quiet, focused on school because that was the only place I felt like I mattered. They never said I wasn't good enough, but their actions screamed it. My honor roll certificates were met with a quick glance before they helped Jessica with her dance recital. My science fair win was a pat on the shoulder before they launched into Jessica's cheerleading squad making nationals. I learned early that my achievements were footnotes in Jessica's story. By college, I'd stopped trying to compete. I focused on my studies, worked my jobs, and built a separate life. I came home for holidays out of obligation but stopped sharing details. What was the point? They weren't listening anyway. Jessica, meanwhile, coasted through a business degree funded entirely by our parents, enjoying sorority life and endless social media posts. She graduated with mediocre grades and no job prospects, but she'd met Trevor, and he had money and connections, which was all my parents cared about. Their engagement was announced at a family dinner I'd reluctantly attended. Jessica flashed a massive diamond ring, gushing about wine country. My mother cried tears of joy. My father shook Trevor's hand. I sat there, smiling politely, while they toasted Jessica's happiness and bright future. Nobody asked about my future. I was just audience. After that dinner, driving back to Portland, I made a decision. I was done trying to be part of this family. The night before the wedding, my mother called. I was packing the envelope into my bag, double-checking everything. "Laura, honey, I just wanted to make sure you're coming tomorrow. Your father's been worried you might not show up." Worried, as if they cared about me being there for any reason other than appearances. "I'll be there," I said. "Oh, good. Jessica will be so happy. She's been asking about you." A blatant lie. Jessica hadn't asked about me in years. "You'll be there by 1, right? And you'll wear something nice." Jessica wants everyone to look their best. Of course she did. "I'll look fine, Mom." "Okay, honey. We'll see you tomorrow." "And Laura? Try to be happy for your sister, okay? This is her special day." I hung up without responding. Try to be happy for her, as if I'd spent my entire life doing anything else. I barely slept that night. Part of me wondered if I should just mail the check and skip the confrontation. It would be easier. But another part of me, the one that had spent years being ignored, wanted them to see me. To understand that I didn't need them, that I'd made it on my own, and that their approval had stopped mattering a long time ago. The wedding was at a beautiful venue in Beaverton. I arrived at 1:15, 15 minutes late because I'd sat in my car, trying to work up the nerve. Guests milled around in expensive clothes, sipping champagne. I spotted my parents near the front, talking to Trevor's family. My father saw me first. His expression shifted instantly from relaxed to annoyed. "You're late," he said, loud enough for heads to turn. "Traffic." I lied. My mother frowned at my simple navy dress. "Oh, Laura, that's what you're wearing?" "It's fine," I said. "Well, I suppose it'll have to do. Come on, we need to take family photos." I didn't move. Instead, I held out the envelope to my father. "What's this?" he asked, taking it but not opening it. "Open it." He gave me a suspicious look, then tore it open. His eyes widened as he pulled out the check. "What is this?" he repeated, his tone confused. "It's a check for $12,350, I said. "That's the exact amount you paid for my first semester of college. I'm paying you back." My mother gasped, her mouth falling open. Laura, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that you've been holding that tuition payment over my head for 4 years. You've threatened to stop paying for my education every time I didn't do what you wanted. Well, I'm done. That's your money back. Now you don't have any leverage. My father stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. Leverage? Laura, we were trying to help you. Help me? I let out a short, bitter laugh. You paid for 1 semester, then acted like you'd funded my entire degree. I paid for the rest myself. Loans, scholarships, 3 jobs. I did it all on my own while you threw money at Jessica like it was confetti. That's not fair, my mother cried, her voice rising. We've always supported you. No, you haven't. You supported Jessica. I was just an afterthought. People were staring now. My father's face flushed red. This is not the time or place for this conversation. Your sister is about to get married. I know. And I'm not staying. What? I'm not staying for the wedding. I came here to give you that check and to tell you that I'm done. Done pretending I'm part of this family. Done being invisible. Done letting you treat me like I don't matter. My mother reached out, but I stepped back. Laura, you're being ridiculous. You can't just leave. Watch me. I turned and walked toward the exit, my heart pounding, my hands shaking, but my steps steady. Behind me, I heard my mother's high-pitched, frantic voice about how embarrassing this was, how I was ruining everything. But I wasn't ruining anything. For the first time in my life, I was choosing myself. I made it to my car, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Part of me expected my father to storm after me. He didn't. I started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot, leaving the venue and my family behind. As I drove, I felt a strange mix of emotions, relief, sadness, anger, and freedom. I'd spent so long trying to earn their approval. For what? They were never going to see me the way I wanted them to. But here's the thing, I didn't need them to. I'd built a life without their help. I'd earned my degree, landed my job, and proven to myself that I was capable and strong. Their opinion of me didn't change any of that. Still, a small thought nagged. They didn't know about my graduation, my job. Part of me wanted them to find out, to see what they'd dismissed. But would it even matter? Would they suddenly realize they'd been wrong? Or would they just downplay it? I didn't have answers. All I knew was I'd taken the first step toward cutting them out of my life. And as terrifying as that felt, it also felt right. When I got home, I poured a glass of wine and stared at the graduate program acceptance letter. I hadn't decided yet if I was going to accept it. The job at Thornberry Systems was incredible, but the program would open even more doors. For the first time in a long time, I had choices, real choices, and nobody was going to take that away from me. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Jessica. Where did you go? Mom said you left. What's going on? I deleted it without responding. Whatever happened next, I was done explaining myself to people who didn't care. The week after the wedding, my phone exploded. My mother called 17 times. My father sent angry texts. Jessica left confused, then accusatory voicemails. I ignored all of them. I focused on preparing for my new job, convincing myself that cutting off my family had been the right decision. Most of the time, I believed it. But late at night, doubts crept in. Had I overreacted? Then I'd remember the way my father had looked at me when I handed him that check, not with understanding, but irritation. I'd remember my mother's concern about my dress, not me. And the years of being overlooked. No, I hadn't overreacted. I'd finally stood up for myself. 5 days after the wedding, someone knocked. Through the peephole, I saw Jessica. "What are you doing here?" I asked, door partially closed. "Can I come in?" "Mom had your address." I hesitated, then stepped aside. Jessica walked in, her nose wrinkling slightly at my small apartment. "What do you want, Jessica?" She turned, and I was surprised to see tears. "I want to know why you ruined my wedding." "I didn't ruin your wedding. I left before it even started." "Exactly. You left, and it caused this huge scene." Mom spent the entire ceremony crying. Dad was furious. Everyone was asking where you were. "Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was?" I crossed my arms. "I'm sorry my absence was inconvenient for you." "That's not what I meant." She wiped her eyes. "I just don't understand. Why would you give Dad that money and just walk out?" "Because I'm tired of being treated like I don't matter." "What are you talking about? You matter. You're my sister." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Really? When's the last time you asked me how I was doing? When's the last time Mom or Dad came to one of my events or celebrated one of my accomplishments?" Jessica looked genuinely confused. "What accomplishments?" And there it was. The proof I'd been invisible. "I graduated 3 weeks ago," I said quietly. Asterisk summa cum laude asterisk, valedictorian. I gave a speech. None of you came because none of you knew. I didn't tell you because I knew you wouldn't care. Her mouth fell open. "You graduated? Why didn't you say anything?" "Because every time I tried to talk about my life, you or Mom or Dad changed the subject. To you. Your sorority, your boyfriend, your wedding, your plans. There was never room for me in the conversation." Jessica sank onto my couch, genuinely shaken. "I didn't know." "Of course you didn't. You never asked. I'm the only one Mom and Dad cared about. I spent my entire childhood trying to get them to notice me, and worked 3 jobs to pay for college while they handed you everything." She flinched. "That's not fair. I didn't ask them to do that." "No, but you never questioned it either. You never once thought about how it might feel to be me. Always standing in your shadow. Always being compared to you and coming up short. I never compared us. That was Mom and Dad. And you benefited from it." I sat across from her. "Look, I'm not angry at you, Jessica. Not really. You didn't create this dynamic, but you didn't do anything to change it either. And neither did I, until now." She was quiet. "What happens now?" "I don't know. I start my new job on Monday. I'm moving on with my life without you, without expectations, without needing your approval or Mom and Dad's validation. If you want to be part of my life, you're going to have to actually be interested in my life." Jessica nodded slowly. "I can try. I want to try." "Then start by listening." I got a job at Thornberry Systems. I'm working on environmental engineering projects, designing sustainable water systems. I'm making 6 figures. I'm also considering a graduate program specializing in environmental policy. Her eyes widened. "Laura, that's amazing. I had no idea." Nobody did. Because nobody asked. She stood, looking uncertain. "I should go. Trevor's waiting in the car." "But Laura, I really am sorry. And I'm proud of you. For what it's worth." I walked her to the door. As she stepped into the hallway, she turned back. "Are you going to talk to Mom and Dad?" "I don't know. Maybe eventually, but not now. I need space." She nodded and left. I closed the door, exhausted. The conversation had been draining, but necessary. Maybe Jessica would make an effort. Maybe she wouldn't. Either way, I'd said what I needed to say. My phone buzzed. A text from my father: "Your mother is devastated. You owe her an apology." Even now, he was making it about them. I typed out a response, deleted it 3 times, then finally settled on, "I don't owe anyone anything. I paid you back. We're even." His reply came immediately: "That money doesn't erase 18 years of raising you. You're being selfish and ungrateful." Selfish, the word stung, because part of me worried he was right. But the larger part of me knew he was wrong. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. Setting boundaries isn't ungrateful. And refusing to accept mistreatment isn't a character flaw. I turned off my phone and went to bed. My first week at Thornberry Systems was overwhelming in the best way. The office was modern and bright. My team was brilliant and passionate. I threw myself into the work, grateful for the distraction. For the first time in weeks, I felt like myself again, not someone's daughter or sister, just Laura, an engineer doing work that mattered. On Friday, my supervisor, Gretchen, called me into her office. "How's your first week?" "Good. Really good. I'm learning a lot." "You're doing excellent work." "I'm impressed. We're putting together a proposal for a major project with the City of Portland, a comprehensive sustainability initiative. If we win, it'll be one of the biggest projects the company has ever taken on. And I want you on the team." I felt a surge of excitement. I'd love to be part of it. This was exactly the kind of opportunity I'd worked so hard for. I'd earned it on my own merit, not because of family connections or favoritism. That evening, I met Kelsey, my best friend from college, and filled her in. "I still can't believe you actually handed him a check and walked out," she said, shaking her head in admiration. "That's the most badass thing I've ever heard." It didn't feel badass at the time. It felt terrifying. "But you did it anyway. That's what matters." She squeezed my hand. "You don't owe them anything, Laura. You've been taking care of yourself for years. They just didn't notice. That's what bothers me the most. They didn't notice. I worked so hard to be independent, and they just assumed I was struggling. They never once considered I might actually be succeeding. Their loss, seriously. You're brilliant and successful, and you don't need their validation. You know that, right?" "I'm starting to." When I got home, I found an envelope under my door. My mother's handwriting. Inside, a card with a generic message about family and forgiveness. Below the printed text, she'd written, "Laura, please come home. We miss you and we love you. Whatever issues we have, we can work through them together. You're our daughter and we want you in our lives. Please call me. Love, Mom." I stared at it, feeling a complicated mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to believe her, but another part knew better. This wasn't an apology. It was a plea for me to come back and pretend everything was fine. I set the card aside. Sleep didn't come easily. My mind kept replaying memories, forgotten math competitions, practical Christmas gifts while Jessica got new tech, silent dinners. And then I thought about the future I was building, the job that challenged and excited me, the independence I'd fought for, the respect I was earning. I didn't need my family to validate me anymore. I'd learned to validate myself. But that didn't mean it didn't hurt. The next morning, Jessica texted, "Mom told me she sent you a card. I know you're mad, but please at least consider talking to them. They really do miss you." I went for a run, then replied, "I appreciate you reaching out, but I need more time. I'm not ready." Her quick response, "I understand. Just know that I'm here if you need me." It was a small gesture, but it meant something. The following week, I dove deeper into the Portland Sustainability Project. It was exactly the kind of work I'd dreamed of. One afternoon, my phone rang. An unknown number. Hello? Is this Laura? Yes. This is Trevor, Jessica's husband. We met briefly we've met a couple times. His voice was hesitant, nervous. Strange, for arrogant Trevor. What do you want? I wanted to talk to you about something. Do you have a few minutes? I'm listening, I said, neutral. Look, I know things are complicated with your family right now. Jessica told me what happened at the wedding, and I think there's something you should know. What is it? Can we meet in person? I hesitated. Meeting Trevor alone felt weird, but curiosity won. Fine. There's a coffee shop on Northwest 23rd, Brew Point. I can meet you there in an hour. He was already there, 2 coffees in front of him. He stood when he saw me. Thanks for meeting me. I got you a coffee. Thanks. I sat. Trevor ran a hand through his hair. Okay, so I'm just going to say this straight out. Your parents have been lying to Jessica and me about their financial situation. I frowned. What do you mean? About 3 months ago, your dad came to me asking for a loan. He said they were having temporary cash flow issues with his business and needed $20,000 until a big client paid them back. He promised to pay me back within 60 days. My father's consulting firm was decent, but $20,000 seemed like a lot. Did you give it to him? I did. He's family. But the 60 days came and went. He kept making excuses, and eventually told me he'd pay me back after Jessica's wedding. Let me guess, he hasn't paid you back. No. And when I pressed him last week, he told me he actually needs another $15,000 to keep the business afloat. He said if I didn't help them, they might lose everything. I sat back, processing. So, what does this have to do with me? Jessica mentioned that your parents paid for your college education. She said they've been financially supporting both of you for years. But if that's true, why would they need to borrow money from me? Why would they be struggling? I let out a short, bitter laugh. They didn't pay for my education, Trevor. They paid for my first semester 4 years ago. 1 semester, I paid for everything else myself. Loans, scholarships, 3 jobs. And I seriously doubt they've been financially supporting Jessica the way you think they have. His face went pale. What? My parents like to take credit for things they didn't do. They've been telling people for years that they put me through college, but it's not true. And I'm willing to bet they've been exaggerating their financial contributions to Jessica's life, too. Trevor looked genuinely shocked. But they talk about it all the time. How much they've invested in both of you, how much they've sacrificed, it's a performance. They want people to think they're generous, supportive parents, but the reality is very different. I paused. Did my dad say why his business is struggling? He said it's been a tough market, clients tightening budgets, but now I'm wondering if any of it is true. It might be, or he might be bad at managing money and too proud to admit it. Either way, it's not your problem. I know, but Jessica is worried. She thinks they're on the verge of losing their house. She's been talking about us helping them financially long-term, maybe even moving them in with us if things get really bad. I could see the panic in his eyes. Trevor came from money, but he wasn't stupid. He knew supporting his in-laws indefinitely could drain his resources and strain his marriage. What do you want me to do about it? I asked. I don't know. I just thought you should know. And I guess I wanted to ask you directly, did they really pay for your college? No. They paid $12,000 4 years ago. I paid them back last week. We're even. He absorbed this, jaw tight. Jessica doesn't know any of this. Then maybe you should tell her. I'm not sure she'll believe me. She idolizes your parents. She thinks they're saints who sacrificed everything for their kids. That's because she's the only one who actually benefited from their sacrifices, real or imagined. I took a sip of coffee. Look, Trevor, I can't help you with this. I cut ties with my family for a reason. If you want the truth about their finances, you're going to have to investigate that yourself. Ask for documentation. Don't just take their word for it. You're right. I know you're right. It's just, this isn't what I signed up for. Welcome to my world. We sat in silence. Then Trevor said, for what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Walking away from the wedding, setting boundaries. Jessica told me what you said about being invisible, and I think she's finally starting to understand how messed up the dynamic was. Maybe. Or maybe she's just upset because things are getting uncomfortable. He smiled grimly. Probably a little of both. After Trevor left, I sat in the coffee shop for an hour. My parents were in financial trouble, possibly serious trouble. And instead of being honest, they were manipulating people, creating more debt. Part of me felt vindicated. They'd always acted like they were so much more successful, like they had everything figured out. Turns out they were just better at hiding their problems. But another part of me felt sad. They'd spent so much energy maintaining appearances that they'd lost sight of what actually mattered. I pulled up my phone and looked at my father's last text. You're being selfish and ungrateful, I typed a response. I know about the money you borrowed from Trevor. I know about the business struggling. If you're in trouble, be honest about it, instead of blaming me for setting boundaries. I'm not coming back to save you. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. His response came an hour later. How dare you interfere in my business? This has nothing to do with you. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. That evening, Jessica called. Trevor told me about the money, she said without preamble. Is it true about college? Yes. Why didn't you tell me? What did it have mattered? She was quiet. I don't know. Maybe. I just feel like I don't know anything anymore. I thought Mom and Dad were these perfect parents. And now I'm finding out they've been lying about all kinds of things. They're not perfect, Jessica. Nobody is. But they've been using their supposed generosity as leverage for years, and I'm done playing along. I'm starting to see that. She sighed. Trevor wants to ask them for financial records before we give them any more money. I think he's right, but I don't know how to bring it up without them getting angry. That's between you and Trevor. I can't help you with that. I know. I wanted you to know that I believe you about everything. And I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. It was the closest thing to a real apology I'd gotten. Thanks, Jessica. After we hung up, I felt emotionally exhausted, yet lighter. Maybe Jessica and I would never be super close, but at least we could be honest. 3 weeks after my conversation with Trevor, I was deep into preparations for the Portland Sustainability Project presentation. Our team had put together an incredible proposal. The presentation was scheduled for a Thursday afternoon at City Hall. The night before, my phone rang. My mother. I stared at the screen, debating. We hadn't spoken since the wedding. Curiosity won. Hello? Laura. Honey, it's Mom. Her voice was strained, like she'd been crying. I need to talk to you about something important. It's your father. He's had a heart attack. My stomach dropped. What? When? This afternoon. He collapsed at the office. He's stable now, but the doctors say he needs major lifestyle changes. Less stress, better diet, more rest. Despite everything, he was still my father. The thought scared me. Is he going to be okay? They think so. But Laura, we need to talk about his business. With him in the hospital, someone needs to step in. And with everything that's been happening, I thought maybe you could. No, Laura, please. I know things have been difficult, but your father needs help. The business is struggling, and if someone doesn't step in, we could lose everything. Then hire someone, or ask Jessica. Jessica doesn't know anything about business management, and we can't afford to hire someone. You're the only one with the skills and knowledge to help us through this. I closed my eyes, feeling the familiar pull of guilt and obligation. This was exactly what they always did. Waited until there was a crisis, then expected me to fix it. Mom, I'm sorry Dad is sick, I really am. But I can't drop everything to save his business. I have my own career, my own responsibilities. Your career can wait. This is family. Family works both ways. You can't ignore me for years and then expect me to come running when you need something. We never ignored you, Laura. We've always loved you and supported you. That's not true, and you know it. You paid for 1 semester of college and held it over my head for 4 years. You dismissed my achievements, overlooked my struggles, and made it clear that Jessica was the only one who mattered. And now that you need something from me, suddenly I'm important. That's not fair. We did the best we could. Maybe. But your best wasn't good enough. And I'm not going to sacrifice my life to fix your problems. She was silent. When she spoke again, her voice had turned cold. So, that's it. You're just going to abandon us when we need you most. I'm not abandoning you. I'm setting boundaries. If you need help with Dad's business, hire a consultant. If you need emotional support, call Jessica. But don't ask me to give up everything I've worked for to bail you out. Fine. I can see we can't count on you. She hung up. I sat there, shaken. Part of me wondered if I'd been too harsh. But another part knew I'd done the right thing. I couldn't keep sacrificing myself for people who only valued me when they needed something. That night, I barely slept. My mind replayed the conversation, imagining worst-case scenarios. But I also kept reminding myself of all the times they'd dismissed me. I couldn't let guilt manipulate me into going back. The next morning, I put on my best professional suit. I looked confident, capable, like someone who belonged in a room full of city officials and business leaders. At the office, Gretchen gave us a pep talk. You've all done incredible work on this. The council would be lucky to work with us. At City Hall, the council president called the meeting to order. The contract will be awarded to Thornberry Systems. The room erupted in applause. Gretchen grabbed my hand, eyes shining. We'd won. The Portland Sustainability Initiative was big news, and Gretchen selected me to participate in interviews. I found myself quoted in newspapers, featured in a local business journal article about young professionals making an impact. The article included my photo and mentioned I graduated valedictorian. The day it was published, Jessica texted, "Mom saw the article. She's freaking out. Just wanted to give you a heads up." Sure enough, an hour later, my mother called. I let it go to voicemail. "Laura, I saw the article about your project. I had no idea you were working on something so important. Your father and I are very proud of you. I know things have been difficult, but we'd love to see you and talk about everything. Please call me back." I deleted the message. They were proud now that my success was public, now that they could brag about it. But where were they when I was struggling? Where were they when I graduated? They wanted to be part of my success, but they'd never been part of my struggle. I put the framed article in a closet and threw the card away. That weekend, I met Jessica for coffee. She looked different, less polished, more genuine. We talked for 2 hours about everything. I think I was in denial for a long time, Jessica admitted. It was easier to believe Mom and Dad were perfect than to acknowledge how unfair things were. But after everything that's happened, I can't pretend anymore. It's hard to see your parents as flawed human beings, I said. Yeah. And I feel guilty, too. Guilty that I benefited from their favoritism. Guilty that I didn't stand up for you. Guilty that I just accepted everything without questioning it. You were a kid, Jessica. You can't blame yourself for how they chose to treat us. Maybe not. But I can take responsibility for how I treat you now. She looked at me seriously. I want you to know that I see you. Really see you. And I'm impressed as hell by what you've accomplished, the project, your job, everything. You did it all on your own, and that's incredible. Thank you. That means a lot. We made plans for lunch. I felt hopeful that maybe we could build something real. The following Tuesday, I received an email from my father. It was short and formal. Laura, I wanted to inform you that I'm selling the business. The heart attack was a wake-up call that I need to make significant changes in my life. I'll be retiring and focusing on my health. Your mother and I are also downsizing to a smaller house to reduce our financial burden. I know our relationship has been strained, but I hope you can understand that I did my best as a father. If you're willing, I'd like to meet for coffee sometime to talk. No pressure, just a conversation. Dad. I read it 3 times, looking for manipulation. But it seemed genuine. For the first time, he was acknowledging things without blaming me. I didn't respond immediately. I needed time. A month later, I received a promotion at work. Gretchen offered me a position as a junior project manager. You've proven yourself, Laura. You're smart, dedicated, and you handle pressure well. I think you're ready. I accepted, overwhelmed with gratitude and pride. That evening, I called Kelsey. That's amazing. We need to celebrate. Absolutely. And hey, have you thought any more about the graduate program? The application deadline is coming up. I think I'm going to apply. I can do it part-time while working, and Thornberry has a tuition reimbursement program. Do it. You've come so far, Laura. Don't stop now. She was right. I spent the next few weeks balancing my new responsibilities with my grad school application. I also finally responded to my father's email. Dad, I appreciate you reaching out. I'm open to having coffee and talking, but I need you to understand that things can't go back to how they were. If we're going to have a relationship moving forward, it needs to be honest and equal. Let me know when you're available. His response came the next day. I understand. How about next Saturday at 10 o'clock? There's a cafe near my house called Morning Grounds. I'll be there. I arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early. When my father walked in, I barely recognized him. He'd lost weight. His face was drawn. Thank you for coming, he said. You're welcome. I've been doing a lot of thinking since the heart attack. I realized I've made a lot of mistakes, especially with you. Your mother and I put too much pressure on Jessica to be perfect and not enough attention on you. We took you for granted. You deserved better. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was honest. It was a start. I appreciate you saying that. I also want you to know that I read the articles about your project. I had no idea you were doing such important work. I'm impressed, and I'm sorry I wasn't there to support you. I didn't tell you about it because I didn't think you'd care. I know, and that's on me. He took a sip of coffee. I don't expect you to forgive me or to suddenly want a close relationship, but I hope we can start fresh. Slowly build something better. We talked for another hour. It wasn't easy, but it felt real in a way our conversations never had. When we parted ways, I didn't feel the weight of expectation I'd always carried. I felt lighter, freer, like I'd finally let go of needing their approval. In the months that followed, my parents faced the full consequences of their choices. The business sold for far less than my father had hoped. They had to file for bankruptcy, losing their house and most possessions. They moved into a modest apartment and started over. My father took a part-time job, my mother went back to work. The lifestyle they'd projected crumbled completely. Jessica helped where she could, but she and Trevor had their own lives. As for me, I continued moving forward. I started the graduate program, excelled in my new role, and slowly built a relationship with Jessica based on honesty. My father and I met for coffee occasionally, carefully reconstructing something that resembled a relationship. My mother took longer to come around, but eventually, she stopped trying to manipulate me and started listening. Looking back on that day at Jessica's wedding, the day I handed my father that envelope and walked away, I realized it wasn't just about the money. It was about reclaiming my worth, refusing to be controlled, and choosing myself for the first time in my life. The path hadn't been easy, but it had been mine, and that made all the difference. Have you ever faced a moment where you had to completely walk away from a toxic situation to find your own path, even if it meant confronting your own family? I'd love to hear your experiences and thoughts in the comments below.